Hi, my name is Jared McLaughlin, and I'd like to welcome you to your solar research appointment. The objective of this video is to give you all the information you need to make an informed decision on whether to install solar panels at your home or business. If at the end of this video you are 100% comfortable with solar power and our organization, then the next step would be to move forward with a proposal so that you can see your exact savings by switching to solar. Let's start with some information about who we are and what we're trying to accomplish. 6 years ago, I started Value Solar Power, an Austin-based solar installation company. Our goal has always been to deliver the best value in solar power by providing you with the best quality product at the lowest price possible. And at this point, we've done hundreds of installs all over Texas and maintain an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. But solar is about more than just saving money. It's literally about saving the world. Climate change is real, and we're running out of time. The time for half measures is over. We need a major change, and it has to happen right now. That's why we started Solar the World, dedicated to eliminating the threat of climate change. How will we do this? By addressing the climate crisis at scale. Every home and every business needs to get to net zero carbon emissions, not just in Texas, but across the entire world. We are all a part of the problem when it comes to climate change. But now, you can continue to be part of the problem, or you can be part of the solution. The science of climate change is simple. The more CO2 in the atmosphere, the warmer the Earth becomes. And unfortunately, we live in a civilization that burns a lot of fossil fuels. The current level of CO2 in the atmosphere is 415 parts per million. To put this in perspective, for the last 1 million years, CO2 levels have never been above 300 parts per million. In other words, human beings have never lived on Earth with CO2 levels this high. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, CO2 levels were at 280 parts per million. But even in 1960, CO2 levels were still at around 315 parts per million. By far, the majority of the increase in CO2 has happened over the last few decades, and it is increasing exponentially. But none of this is necessary. We can maintain our modern lifestyle without destroying the planet at the same time. Just about every machine we use can be converted to run on electricity. And instead of burning fossil fuels to produce the electricity we need, we can just get it from renewable energy sources like solar panels. And then the problem is solved. It really is that simple. The idea that we somehow need to choose between economic prosperity and saving the environment is actually a false choice. In fact, there is nothing in the world that is more expensive and damaging to the economy than climate change. According to the National Hurricane Center, the total damages inflicted by Hurricane Harvey to the city of Houston and the Texas coastline was over $125 billion. While repairs from Hurricane Irma have now reached over $72 billion. And even now, Puerto Rico still has not fully recovered. It can be said that God created hurricanes. But if that is so, then there can be no doubt that human beings have supersized them. And it's important to understand that the true cost of these events are not just the repairs alone, but there is also a tremendous loss to productivity as well. How can someone work if their business is underwater? And at the same token, how productive can someone be without the use of essential infrastructure?
Every time a road is washed out, or the electric grid or internet goes down, economic activity grinds to a halt. In 2020, the World Economic Forum ranked climate change as the single largest threat to the economy and estimated reductions to gross domestic product of more than 10% per year. Some might argue that right now, we just can't afford to do something about climate change. But they are sorely mistaken. The reality is, we can't afford not to. The truth is that if the United States were to move away from fossil fuels and towards renewable energy, it's not the entire economy that would lose out. It's actually only a select group of individuals that, by the way, have been making money hand over fist for decades that would simply make less money. Solar creates a tremendous amount of economic activity. In fact, solar creates roughly 10 times the number of jobs than the oil and gas industry as a whole. And almost all of these jobs are local. In fact, everything about solar is about creating and sustaining wealth locally. But unfortunately, this is not in the best financial interest of a small group of people with a lot of power in Washington. When you produce your own electricity, the flow of money away from you and toward the electricity company essentially stops. Instead, the monthly bill that you pay goes directly towards something that you own. So all of that wealth and all of that equity stays with you. This is no different than when you decided to own your home instead of renting. Just think of all the reasons why you decided to stop renting and own your home instead. Why in the world would you continue to rent and put money in your landlord's pocket when you could own your own home and accumulate wealth for yourself instead? We can all agree that paying rent is very different from having a mortgage. When you rent, the money goes to someone else. When you own, the money comes back to you. This is something that every homeowner understands. And this is the exact same scenario when it comes to solar power. When you install solar panels, your home is objectively worth more. Period. And this is regardless of where you live or when you happen to sell your home in the future. Solar has proven time and again to be a recession-proof investment. When you go solar, your home appraises differently, adding objective value regardless of market conditions. In most locations, solar is a tax-free investment. In most counties, solar is property tax exempt, and most cities and states don't even charge sales tax on solar either. And lastly, the federal government will actually pay you to go solar. This is in the form of an income tax credit that you receive when you file your taxes the following year. For most people who file their taxes as W-2 employees, they receive a large refund of money that they had withheld from their paychecks throughout the year. For people who are self-employed or own a business, the income tax credit simply reduces the amount of taxes they would have to pay the federal government for that year. The amount of the solar federal income tax credit is currently 22% of the entire system cost. But this amount is decreasing, so it's important to claim this credit while it is still available. Also, it is important to understand that the solar income tax credit covers not just the cost of the solar panels, but all of the materials associated with your install. And it's not just the materials that it covers, but all of the labor for your project as well, permitting, administrative, and any other overhead costs. This is part of what makes this opportunity so special, because even if the cost of solar panels were to be cut in half, you still wouldn't reach the effective cost of the system with a 22% solar income tax credit. All you need to claim your solar income tax credit is to install solar, fill out tax form 5695, and hold on to your installation agreement as part of your financial records. This is a big reason why home builders and house flippers are now including solar in with the build. Just think of it this way. What you pay as the effective cost of your solar power system after the federal income tax credit is significantly below the actual cost of the solar power system. So if you install solar on a Monday and sell your home on a Tuesday, the system appraises close to the original system price, already putting you several $1,000s ahead. In fact, every credible publication is now in universal agreement that solar pays for itself when you sell your home. So if the worst case scenario is that solar pays for itself, then every dollar that you pay towards your solar power system comes back to you as equity, and all the savings against your electricity bill goes directly back into your pocket. So, you might ask, what about my HOA? Will my homeowners association allow me to go solar? Well, the short answer to that question is they have to. There's federal and state laws that say explicitly that homeowners associations have to approve solar. We'll still go through their process and fill out the necessary forms. But according to both federal and state law, the installation of solar panels has to be approved. And we have a 100% success rate dealing with HOAs so that you don't have to. Since it wasn't until recently that solar became popular for residential and commercial use, most people believe that it is a new technology. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, using sunlight to create electricity, also known as the photovoltaic or photoelectric effect, goes all the way back to 1839. Many scientists have contributed to our knowledge of the photoelectric effect, including Albert Einstein, who won a Nobel Prize for his work on this topic in 1921. Over the years, scientists experimented with different materials until 1953. Gerald Pearson found silicon to be especially useful for producing an electrical charge. Since that time, solar panels have become more efficient, producing slightly more electricity per square inch of surface area. But the technology as a whole really hasn't changed since the 1950s. So if solar as a technology was viable all the way back in 1953, why did it take over 60 years to make its way to the average American home? One reason: money. While fossil fuels are a non-renewable resource for you, they have been a renewable resource of wealth for a very small group of people. Just think for a moment about how much fossil fuels dominate American life. How often do you visit the gas station per week? Once if you're lucky, or maybe 2 or 3 times if you have a longer commute. How much money do you spend on gas over the course of a week? $20, $40 if you're lucky. So how much is that a month? What about a year? In fact, the average American is so dependent on fossil fuels that just a 10-cent increase per gallon at the pump sends a ripple effect throughout the entire economy. Remember how bad it got when gas was $4 a gallon? Now, imagine being the person who is selling the gasoline at the pump. And not just getting $30 a week from you, but from every person who fills up at that particular gas station. And imagine being the person who sells gasoline to every gas station in Austin, or every gas station in Texas, or the entire US. The truth is that for the last 150 years, to own any part of the oil, gas, and coal supply chain was to be rich beyond your wildest dreams. And I'm not talking about the workers, mind you. I'm talking about the owners. Imagine just sitting back and watching all that money coming in year after year after year. Would you give up all that just because some scientists said that the Earth might get a few degrees warmer? Well, when it comes to things like climate change, people have a tendency to believe what's in their interest to believe. So the truth about climate change, as well as the viability of solar panels, has been suppressed by the same people who stand to lose if America moves away from fossil fuels. To prove that solar was a viable technology, Jimmy Carter put solar panels on the White House roof in 1979. Ronald Reagan removed them. And it wasn't until 2010 that Barack Obama put solar panels back on the roof of the White House. The truth is that the oil and gas lobby owns a lot of Washington. Some political parties more than others. And they have the money to write some very big checks to political campaigns. Moreover, they've paid billions of dollars to launch misinformation campaigns around the world. In fact, it's hard to get on social media these days and not see a flat-out lie posted by someone who has something to lose if the truth gets out. The only reason that there is a debate at all about climate change is that there are some very rich people paying a lot of money to make that happen. But this time it's too late to put the genie back in the bottle. Too many people know about the environmental and money-saving benefits of solar power. And with far less subsidies than those given to oil and gas companies, with none of the trillions of dollars of hidden costs, solar beats oil and gas on the economic and financial benefits every time. Solar as a technology is actually pretty simple. Solar panels are installed on your roof at the best location for producing electricity. When the sun hits the solar panels during the day, they produce an electrical charge in the form of direct current. However, your home runs on alternating current. For that reason, the electricity must first pass through an inverter, which will change it to a form of electricity that the home can use. The electricity produced by the panels will travel through a set of wires to the inverter where it's changed to alternating current. And then from there, the electricity goes through the main electrical panel and into the home. The home will use the electricity that it needs first. And then any electricity that the home doesn't use is pushed out onto the electrical grid. If you have one of those older analog electrical meters, the meter literally spins backwards as you get credit for the electricity you are producing over and above what the home is using. Nowadays, most people have a digital meter, but the concept is still the same. Your meter keeps track of what the home uses and what is pushed back onto the grid. For the most part, you'll get excess solar production during the day. Your meter keeps track and gives you credit for the excess solar production. Then at night, you draw on the credits that you accumulated during the day. Now, every utility provider has a different program when it comes to how they give you credit for your solar production. For that reason, it's important to understand how your utility provider determines your bill and gives you credit for the solar production. Based on this, your solar consultant will help you determine the best strategy for maximizing your savings with solar power. When considering solar for your home or business, it's easy to get lost in the massive amount of information that's out there. And sometimes it can be difficult to sort out what's important from what's not. For instance, take solar as a technology. Every manufacturer makes the argument that their panels are the best in the business. So much so that researching solar panels can feel a lot like going to a Star Trek convention. Americans have long had a love affair with technology. People want the best, which is definitely understandable. It's exciting to hear about the latest and greatest new thing. But the truth is that a lot of it is simply an excuse to charge you more money. So how do you sort out the fluff from what's really important? At Value Solar Power, we have a different approach to solar than the rest of the industry. Rather than trick you into paying more for something you don't need, we'd rather earn your business by educating you and helping you to understand what's important when it comes to your solar power system and what isn't. Here are some industry secrets that will help you when deciding to go solar. Number one, name brands don't matter. When you're looking for a quality solar panel, name brands matter a lot less than people think. In fact, solar is different from other industries in that there is actually an objective rating system for solar panels. As long as you have a Tier 1 solar panel, you know that you are working with a manufacturer that has been properly vetted for quality. As much as solar manufacturers don't want to admit it, name brand really doesn't matter when it comes to solar panels. Number two, efficiency rarely matters. So here's a question. Which system produces more? A 6 kilowatt system made up of 300 watt panels? Or a 6 kilowatt system made up of 335 watt panels? Answer, they both produce the same. The difference is that you'll need 20 solar panels to get to 6 kilowatts if you're using 300 watt panels. Whereas if you're using 335 watt panels, you'll only need 18 panels to get to 6 kilowatts. So here's another difference. The 335 watt panels will be a lot more expensive. So here's a real life scenario. Would you be willing to pay $5,000 more for a 6 kilowatt system just to have 2 less solar panels on your roof? Now, there are some exceptions to that. If you have a small roof or a shading issue that reduces the amount of usable roof space that you have available, and if you have a high electricity bill that you're trying to offset, it may be in your best interest to go with a higher efficiency panel. But for the vast majority of people, paying thousands of dollars just to have 2 less panels on your roof doesn't make sense. Number 3, you don't always need 100% offset. Your solar production will of course vary according to the seasons. At Value Solar Power, we use 20 years of weather data to determine how much your solar panels will produce in an average April, an average May, so on and so forth. Some months, typically in the spring or fall, it's possible to produce more electricity than what you use for the month. You will get credit for your overproduction based on your utility company's solar program and specifically what they call their buyback rate. Other months, you will use more electricity than what you are producing, and you will have a smaller bill left over. This is typical in the hot summer months when you are using your air conditioner frequently. So your solar production isn't going to align perfectly with your usage on a monthly basis. What matters is how it averages out over the course of the entire year. In some cases, it's possible to reach 100% offset, meaning that the total amount of solar production equals the total amount of usage over the course of the year. But in many cases, it's just not possible. Like, for instance, if you have a large amount of usage due to maybe a pool or an electric vehicle with a relatively small amount of usable roof space. Also, with some utility companies, 100% offset doesn't make financial sense either. Regardless, a partial offset of your electricity usage with solar power is always better than nothing at all. Even if your offset with solar power is only 50%, you're still saving thousands of pounds of CO2 emissions every year. And from a financial standpoint, would you rather throw away all of your money by giving it to the utility company, or keep thousands of dollars and convert it into equity for your home? Regardless of your particular situation, Value Solar Power will provide you with an individualized solution for your energy needs. We will put you in the best possible position to save the most amount of money possible, all while you do your part to protect the environment, which will have a tremendous impact on the quality of life for future generations. Most people have a vague conception that global warming is bad, but most lack a practical understanding of specifically how global warming affects the lives of people across the globe. Here is a breakdown of just some of the real-life effects of global warming. The ice caps. The Earth has two ice caps, one in the Arctic and one on Antarctica. And it has been this way for more than 15 million years. Together, the ice caps have had a cooling effect on the Earth, moderating weather patterns and causing the oceans to recede. This has allowed plant and animal life to flourish, specifically mammals, which need more temperate conditions in order to survive. But the ice caps are now melting. This year alone, more than 603 billion tons of ice has melted, causing ocean levels to rise. It is not an exaggeration to say that many of the world's cities will be underwater in just a few decades. Here is a short list of American cities that will be underwater and hence unlivable by the year 2050 unless we make a major change right now. Where will all these people go if they can't live in these cities anymore? How will we handle refugees from all of these places? And are we really okay with saying goodbye to Miami, New Orleans, New York, or any of these cities for that matter? The problem isn't just that the ice caps are melting. It's that the rate of melting is accelerating. Ice and snow reflect back the sun's rays without absorbing its heat. However, water absorbs the sun's energy, which increases its temperature. Because there is less and less surface area that is made up of ice and snow, less and less of the sun's rays are reflected back, and more is absorbed by the surrounding water. So the process is accelerating, which makes it more difficult to reverse as time goes on, which actually makes it even more dangerous. The water supply. 68% of the Earth's drinking water starts as ice and snow that is collected on the top of mountains and high elevations. During the winter, large amounts of ice and snow collect, and in the spring, it flows down as water, which collects in rivers, lakes, and springs. This natural purifying process is responsible for the cleanest and best drinking water on Earth. But since the Earth is warming, less ice and snow is gathering on the tops of mountains, and in some areas it has stopped gathering altogether. Global warming is now becoming a threat to the fresh water supply, not just for people, but also for a variety of plants, animals, and freshwater marine life. The food supply. One of the ironies of global warming is that while certain regions of the world will be underwater, other regions will be converted to desert. Prolonged exposure to heat causes an increase in the soil evaporation. As moisture evaporates from the soil, areas that were once useful for growing fruits and vegetables or for grazing cattle are no longer suitable for growing food. As desert regions increase, the available soil for growing food decreases, putting our food supply in jeopardy. Hurricanes and storms. Human beings didn't create hurricanes, but they definitely supersized them. Warmer oceans means that hurricanes draw more energy while over the ocean. They become larger, stronger, and carry more water. Of the 10 warmest years on record, all of them have been in the last 15 years. Are these really records we should be breaking? Fires. Warmer air holds more moisture. More moisture trapped in the air means less rain. Less rain means drier forests. Drier forests means more forest fires. From 2012 to 2017, California experienced record levels of drought. This left more than 147 million dead trees. This year was by far the worst for wildlife in California. An almost 900% increase in wildfires has resulted in 2.3 million acres of land destroyed by fire. Number 4, warranties do matter. It is now industry standard for any Tier 1 solar panel to carry a 25-year production warranty. What this means is that your panels are supposed to be capable of producing a certain amount of electricity. If the panels have degraded beyond what is expected to, or for any reason they are not producing the amount of energy they're supposed to, then they have to be replaced, period. In addition, to be ranked as a Tier 1 manufacturer, you need to provide proof of strong financials so you can be assured that your warranty is solid in the event that you need it. The second is called an installation warranty. This is provided by the solar installer, which in this case would be Value Solar Power. To be blunt, this covers you in the event that we make a mistake with your install. But after more than 400 installations, it's very unlikely for us to make a mistake. But if we do, we have to make it right. Industry standard for this warranty is currently 10 years, but we at Value Solar Power have extended your installation warranty to 25 years to match that provided by the manufacturer. The way we see it, we need to be there for you over the lifetime of the system. In addition, we take out a $1 million insurance policy on every install we do. So if anything goes wrong, you can be sure that you are 100% covered. Now here's the reality. In the event that something goes wrong, you're usually not going to know if it falls under the manufacturer's warranty or the installer's warranty. So regardless of what it is, your first call should always be to Value Solar Power. We prefer to deal with the headaches for you. If it's something we did, we'll make it right. If it's something the manufacturer did, we'll deal with them on your behalf so that you don't have to. In other words, no matter what it is, just call us and we'll handle it for you. So between the manufacturer's 25-year production warranty and our matching 25-year installation warranty with a $1 million policy, you are 100% protected for anything that may occur with your solar panels. Now, one question we typically get is, what about hail? Well, first of all, we are installing a Tier 1 solar panel on your roof. And Tier 1 solar panels have to be incredibly hail resistant. As a matter of fact, they use a pitching machine to test these panels prior to bringing them to market. In this test, they shoot baseball-size hail at the solar panel at 100 miles per hour. So if the panels can handle baseball-size hail at 100 miles per hour, do you think they can handle the typical hailstorm? They sure can. They can also withstand hurricane-force winds, extreme heat, extreme cold, sunspot radiation, and they don't rust. But even if there were an issue, they are covered under your homeowner's insurance. Now you might ask, okay, does that make my homeowner's insurance go up? The answer to that is only if you increase your coverage. From the moment that the solar panels are attached to your roof, they are covered by your pre-existing homeowner's insurance policy without making any changes whatsoever. But I told you earlier that if you put solar panels on your roof, your home is now worth more. So if you choose to increase your total coverage, let's say from $200,000 to $250,000, then the average increase in your premium is only $3 to $5 per month. So how do I know what size solar power system I need for my home? Well, we need to do an analysis for you. We'll take a look at your last 12 electricity bills to determine how much electricity you need over the course of a year. Our design team will then analyze the contours of your roof, and based on the weather patterns in your area, we will determine what size solar power system is best to maximize your savings. So what makes Value Solar Power so special? Well, we provide not only the best quality available in the solar power industry, but we also put in writing for you a best price guarantee included in your installation agreement. This holds us legally accountable to give you the best pricing in the industry for your solar solution. Hey, we understand that this is likely your first time going solar. So we want you to feel 100% confident that you're making the right decision and that you're working with the right company. Another thing that makes Value Solar Power so special is that we use a whole home solution as opposed to the solar-only approach used by the majority of the solar industry. Think of it this way: every home wastes energy. It's really just a question of how much. But if you can stop that waste, then the cost for that wasted energy disappears altogether. That's money that you no longer have to give to the utility company for electricity, or to us for that matter, for solar power. It's just gone. For that reason, a whole home solution will always save you more than a solar-only solution. At this point, please answer the questions below. It will help us determine how we can eliminate the waste within your home and ultimately save you more money. Let's talk about the financial benefits of installing solar power. Well, solar saves you money in several ways. The first way is that it takes what you would have had to spend on your monthly electricity bill anyway and replaces it with an equity earning solar bill. As we explained earlier, every dollar you spend on solar power goes directly into the equity of your home. It's basically the difference between renting versus owning your home. We all know that having a mortgage, even if you're paying the same amount, is far superior to paying rent every single month. When you pay rent, that money goes to the landlord. When you pay a mortgage, that money stays with you in the form of equity. Solar works exactly the same way. The second way you save money is that you avoid any future rate increases. We all know that the prices of things tends to go up over time. Just think of the stories your grandparents would tell. I remember when a gallon of milk cost a nickel. Or perhaps you can think of examples from your own lifetime. Personally, for me, I remember when a can of soda cost 65 cents in a vending machine. Now I can't get a can of soda for less than $2.25. Inflation is a real thing. And unfortunately, the cost of electricity tends to go up faster than other items. Just think for a moment about how just a 7% yearly increase would affect you. Let's do this together. Use a calculator to calculate how much money you would be spending on electricity this year in total. Now, what will you be paying next year if it goes up by 7%? Okay, what about 5 years from now? And what about 10 years from now? Or 15? Or 20? Now think about some of the financial goals you have for yourself. Are you planning on retiring within the next 25 years? What about putting your son or daughter through college? How will your life goals be affected by a double or triple electricity bill in the coming years? The point is obvious. Locking in a lower bill with solar power now ends up saving you a lot of money in the future.
Let's get specific. How much money are you spending on electricity? And how much money will you be spending as electricity rates continue to go up year after year after year? To determine that number, first pull open a calculator. If you happen to have one handy, that's great. If not, just go to your search bar and pull one up here on your computer. Type in calculator, click on the icon, and there you go. So first, let's determine your highest bill. For most people, that's going to be in the summer. If you have access to your exact bill amounts, that's preferable. If not, use your best estimate. For me, prior to going solar, my highest electricity bill was approximately $300. Now determine your lowest electricity bill. For most people, that's going to be in the spring, but it can also be in the winter. For me, my lowest electricity bill was $125. Then go ahead and determine your average. If you have the exact bill amounts, that information is preferable, but if not, give it your best estimate. I know for me, I had several bills that were close to $300, and I didn't have as many that were close to $125. So to ballpark my average electricity cost, it was somewhere around $210 per month. Go ahead and enter in your highest bill, your lowest bill, and your average electricity bill in the spaces provided.
Now that you have your average electricity bill, multiply that by 12 to determine the total amount spent on electricity over the course of the year. Enter in that amount in the space provided. And now, let's figure out what you'll be spending in the future as rates continue to increase year after year. The average rate of increase in the United States is about 7%. So go ahead and take that number times 1.07. So this would be my total amount spent on electricity next year. Now go ahead and hit the enter button 4 more times to see what you'll be spending in 5 years. Enter in that information in the space provided. Now click enter 5 more times. This will be how much you're spending on electricity in 10 years. Enter in that information in the space provided. Now click enter 5 more times. This is 15 years out. Now, had you gone solar, your bill wouldn't have gone up at all. It would have been the same, and you would have avoided every single one of those rate increases. But one reason why year 15 is very special is because that's the year that most people pay off their solar panels. So they've been saving money all along. But once you get to year 15, do you want to spend that number? Or do you want to have zero cost for electricity because you went solar? Enter in your year 15 electricity expense in the space provided. Now hit that enter key 5 more times to see what you'll be spending in 20 years. Enter in that number in the space provided. And lastly, hit that enter key 5 more times. This is 25 years out. So this would be during the years we were getting free electricity. And just think where you'll be in 25 years. Will you be putting your kids through college? Will you be retiring? How much would spending that amount of electricity hold you back on your life goals 25 years from now? And if you didn't have to spend that money, what kind of position would you be in financially, which would open up more opportunities for how you spend your time? And not only does solar protect you from the rising cost of electricity, the bill you pay for your solar power system eventually ends. Think of it this way. You have to pay for electricity no matter what. But even if you finance the cost of your solar power system and replace your high electricity bill for a lower monthly solar bill instead, your solar bill eventually ends, giving you free electricity from your solar panels that you own. Think for a moment about how significant that is. Is there ever a point where you won't have a bill from your electricity company? I mean, just imagine if your electricity provider told you that not only would they lock in your bill for you so that it never went up, but also after 15 years, you wouldn't have an electricity bill at all, giving you 10 or more years of free electricity without making any payments whatsoever. I'd feel like I just won the lottery. Or maybe I'd feel like Charlie, who found a golden ticket to the chocolate factory. But this is how solar works every day. And it's not a fantasy, it's a reality. And in addition to all that, you're creating local jobs, which in turn builds wealth in your community, which benefits everyone. Lastly, let's not forget that you are literally saving the world. I wish that were an exaggeration, but it's really not. The world has to go solar if we're going to pass along any quality of life to the next generation. The average home that gets its electricity from fossil fuels is responsible for releasing 4 tons of CO2 in the atmosphere every year. But when you go solar, you stop damaging the environment. This is the equivalent of planting over 100 trees. Now, this alone should be reason enough to make a change and go solar. But the fact that you get to save money at the same time, and even the federal government will chip in 26% of the cost of the project for you, well, it really should be an easy decision. We need to switch 1 million people over to solar power this year alone. So there really is no time to waste. If you would like a proposal so that you can see your exact savings with solar power, go ahead and submit your information, and our design team will begin working on putting together the absolute best solution to save you the most amount of money possible. You should feel confident knowing that you have a best price guarantee and feel great about making a difference in the world. We just ask that you be respectful of our time and yours and give us a definite yes or no decision at our next meeting. Thank you for taking the time to learn about solar power, and have a wonderful day.